The following segment is sponsored by Daniel A. White and Associates. It does not necessarily reflect the views of WDEL or Forever Media. Rick Jensen on 1150 AM, 1017 FM, WDEL.
Oh, I've been a client of Dan White's, actually. He's a specialist in financial planning, focusing on retirement income, and I've been a client of his for a long, long time. I'm glad to have him along because last year, we were looking at the markets. He said, what he was studying was showing that we're looking for a dip. We're looking for and it may hang out for a while. So, Dan, thanks for being on the show. It was, I think, October of last year that you and I were talking, and I said, yeah, you know what? With all my 401k rollovers into a retirement IRA, I've always been 80% in the markets, plus what I do with you, right? And then, and I said, I'm looking at the Fed. They're talking about raising rates like 3 or 4 times. Turns out it's probably going to be 6. And I sold off. I'm 20% in the market now. I'm so happy. I really am. Yeah. By January 1st of this year, and the hardest thing was for me to fire some of these really, really good companies that have been making money for me, like NVIDIA and some of the others. But, whew, man,
you can't get married to a particular position.
You really can't. And I saved thousands of dollars. Thousands and thousands. Because remember, in 2008 to 2011, I made a lot of money because I took a lot more risks. Right after the recession. Yep. In fact, a friend of mine who's a stockbroker said, well, Jensen, any idiot could have made money then. And I said, yeah, I'm one of those idiots. And then they did other things, as you know, like real estate and such like that. And, man, I'm even worried about what's happening with that bubble, too. So I don't even know how much has the market lost from, like, the end, I'd say, like the middle of 2021 till now. I probably have to take a look at that. It's stunning.
They're all kind of in a bear market. I mean, the S&P and the Dow are probably down, not close to 20%. The Nasdaq is definitely over 20%, and some stocks within the Nasdaq are down 50, 70, 80%. So it's taken a haircut in some situations.
Yeah, I was watching Jim Cramer. Don't leave the market. Don't leave the market. Thanks, pal. I'm glad I didn't listen to him. and he's even now saying, well, don't leave the market. No, I guess if you're going to buy, if you're young, like you're in your 30s, 20s or 30s right now, it actually might make sense to be buying into some good, solid companies right now, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it all depends on your station in life. I mean, if you're 65 years old, you don't have 15 years, for this thing to come back. But yeah, if you're in your 20s and 30s, yeah, you ought to be in the market.
But when you talk with folks about financial planning and such, it's not always about investing in the markets or preserving your money and all that. It's often about different strategies and techniques to also invest in like deferred or preferred tax instruments and to move money in such a way that'll benefit you based upon the market. For example, I know you want to talk about how your IRA can help you if you're a first-time home buyer. It's already hard not to be a first-time home buyer right now. The market's incredible. It's a housing bubble. It's an incredible supply shortage-driven market. And that's, I don't know how it's going to fall, but it's going to have to. But there are people who are younger, millennials, Gen Zs, who say, you know what? My biological clock is ticking. We want to have kids. We want to have a house. We got to do it.
Yeah, it's tough because, as you said, Rick, the real estate market is about as hot as we've ever seen it today, and it's very challenging, especially for first-time home buyers. Your IRA savings are intended for retirement, not to buy a house, but it may be your biggest asset, and you may need to use some of your IRA funds to make home ownership happen. There is a special break in the tax code that can help you. So usually if you're under age 59 and a half and you take money from your IRA, you're going to be hit with not only taxes but also a 10% early distribution penalty. However, there is an exception if you're looking to take the leap and purchase your first home. The 10% penalty does not apply to any IRA distribution that you use to buy or build a primary residence if you are a first-time home buyer. And you can also use those monies to pay for settlement costs, closing costs, and financing fees. So The caveat, and this gets interesting too, is who is considered to be a first-time home buyer, and this might surprise you as well. You qualify as a first-time home buyer if you haven't owned a house in 2 years.
Really?
So even if you previously owned a home, but you sold it 5 years ago and you've been renting an apartment ever since, you qualify. Now, if you're married, your spouse also cannot have owned a home in the past 2 years. And you can also use your IRA money to help a family member, a child, with a home purchase if they meet the definition of a first-time buyer. Now, the caveat as well is there's a lifetime limit of $10,000 on penalty-free distributions that you use for the first-time purchase. So if you and your spouse both have IRAs and you both qualify as first-time home buyers, each of you could take $10,000 out for a total of $20,000. If you take out more than $10,000, the amount above the $10,000 is not going to be exempt from that 10% penalty. Once you use up the lifetime limit to $10,000, then you can't use it again.
Why the heck would they make it that? I mean, if you're going to put down 20% on a $300,000 house, okay, there's $60,000. What the hell?
Well, they're just trying to give you a little boost, that, hey, you can take a little. I mean, let's face it. I'm a big advocate, because you got to pay tax on the money anyway. So think about it. If you're pulling $60,000 out of your IRA, you're adding $60,000 to your income. You're gonna get hit with the tax bill. So if you're limited to $10,000, you still got to pay the taxes on it, and you have to use the distribution within 120 days from the day you receive it to buy your first home. So if things get jammed up and the home purchase is delayed or canceled, you got to roll those funds back into an IRA. Instead of having 60 days, you have 120 days from the date of the distribution to do this, rather than the normal 60-day period for rolling that money back into an IRA.
Yeah. It's interesting, though.
Give you a little leeway.
You think about this. Let's say you each want to take out $10,000, $20,000, but you got to pay taxes on that money. No penalty if you buy a house with it, right? Taxes on that money. So,
I mean, I've seen people all the time in my end of the spectrum. I'll see people, hey, I want to buy a house at the beach. I'm going to pull $100,000 out of my IRA, my 401k. I'm like, what are you doing? Not only do you got to pay tax on the 100, you're not going to get 100. You're going to get about 70, but you're robbing your retirement fund, to buy a beach house. I mean, I've seen people do it. I mean, I'm not saying it's the right or the wrong move, but it's not something that we advocate. I think if you got money in non-qualified, non-retirement accounts, retirement funds are retirement funds and ought to be used for retirement, not to buy real estate.
See, that's what I'm thinking. So if you're making, I don't know, what is it, 86 to 160, something like that, you're in the 24% tax bracket, federal. Mm-hmm. 24%. So you're paying 24% for your money.
Yeah.
There's got to be a place where you can get a better deal than that.
And not only that, but again, how much did you save for retirement? And now you're raiding the kitty. You're kind of you're pushing ahead consumption is what you're doing, and you're raiding the kitty, so you're going to have less money for retirement. And you can sit on the porch all day at the beach, I guess. But
you can get a credit card deal for better than 24%.
Exactly.
Just go to play. Exactly. I need 25 credit cards. Why? I'm going to buy a house, and it's less than my income tax bracket. Yeah. Although I will share this story when it comes to borrowing money stuff. I had an uncle who would buy this whole life insurance policies, right? Just keep paying. It pays dividends to itself, and it pays itself off after a number of years, a great number of years. You know what he did? He bought these life insurance policies, and again, it's a long time ago. He did this back in the 1960s and the 1970s. And the policies would be a $25,000 policy here, a $30,000 policy. They're not big ones, but he had a bunch of them. I guess he had a friend in the business. He would take loans out of that to buy a car. He said, "Well, I'm just paying myself back," and he would pay it back. He would do that. He would do that. He said, "Well, I'm going to buy a car." He would take the money out of the life insurance policies, plural, and like two of them or something like that, and then pay him back. It was interest he paid to himself, so that the policies wouldn't crash. And I thought that was kind of interesting.
No, you can absolutely do that. That's some of the favorable tax treatment of life insurance. Is you can borrow from the policy; it's not a taxable event, and And again, then you're paying it back, but with interest, but you're paying it back into your own account. So similar to 401ks, you can take loans from 401ks as well, and they'll charge you interest, but then you have to pay it back. But you're paying it back into your own account. So there are some ways you can work around this, but again, this is just a little twerk in the tax code and allows you to grab, if you're a little short coming up on settlement, you don't know where you're going to come up with another, 5 or 10 grand. This could be an avenue that would help you.
Yeah, there you go. Dan White, financial planner specializing in retirement income. Also host of On the Money, Sunday mornings at 7. What's on this weekend?
Yeah, we're actually starting a two-part series. We just came in and did this the other day, and it's about happiness in retirement. What makes people happy in retirement? So it's 2 parts, and I think if you tune in, it's going to be interesting what you ought to be doing with your money in order to maintain happiness throughout retirement.
What would make you happy? You're never going to retire, dude. You love what you do. That's the thing. Your happiness in retirement would be helping people with their financial planning part-time.
Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right, Rick. I do like what I do. So, I mean, I don't see my wife says, "Oh, you're never going to retire," and hopefully not. I mean, hopefully I can take some more time off. But no, I enjoy what I do, and what makes people happy in retirement is knowing that they're not going to run out of money.
Seriously, and you help people with that. All right, Dan White and Associates. Just Google them, and you can give them a call at 888-690-8820. It's not going to charge you anything, just go over your finances and give you some great advice. 888-690-8820. Thanks, Dan.
Have a great day, Rick.
Go Phils.